Welcome to Loading the Bar with physical training experts Parker McBride and Matt Wasko. Our Fit Lifestyle podcast covers the science of nutrition and fitness, together with the challenges we all face to be disciplined. We'll guide you through the minefields of fads and gimmicks and all manner of BS that tempt us in today's fitness world. Ready to begin? Then let's start loading the bar.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Loading the Bar podcast. I am Parker McBride, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Matt Wasko. And we have a very special guest for you guys today. We told you guys on our last podcast we'd be welcoming on Steve Sanborn this week. So we're really happy to have him. Steve is a guy involved in all sorts of stuff, really, but he really focuses on the health and wellness world, and he's got some interesting products that he can talk about today. So, Steve, we really want to thank you for coming on our podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And Matt, how are you doing today?
I am doing fine. I'm excited for the week, and I'm looking forward to always a new fun podcast, especially with my buddy Steve.
Yeah, so that's Steve and Matt. They go back a long time.
A little bit.
A little bit
of a history there.
A lot of history. We won't get into that.
Getting a bit of a vibe.
So we'll see. I might have to try to keep them under control here today.
Yeah.
But all right. So first, we introduced last week a new segment, the Fitness Focus segment. And, I sent Matt a really good article for the Fitness Focus this week, and the headline that I saw reads, "Peanut M&Ms are healthier than beef and pork."
Yeah.
That Bill Gates
Dig up.
study claims. So Matt was generous enough to provide some peanut M&Ms for
I want to be healthy
today.
My dreams have come true.
I want to be healthy, and I'm so glad that they've come out with a study and told us that peanut M&Ms are more healthier red meat. Now, it just makes my world. I'm going to have these sugar rushes. I'll go in and lift really hard with a sugar rush and not worry about, building my muscles up with protein.
You don't need to do that anymore.
Well, they looked at all kinds of different things. They looked at vitamins, minerals, nutrient ratios, fiber and protein, phytochemicals. They looked at all this stuff, and they studied these different foods, and then they gave a rating on a scale of 0 to 100 on these foods. All right. So there was a lot of them. The top food that they studied was cereal. It came in at 64 out of 100. So we go down. We have M&Ms. M&Ms scored a 35, which is pretty low. But then you have beef coming in below that at 29 out of 100. And pork at 24. And at the very bottom, beef sausage at 1.
So what did they weight that they would put red meat down there?
Well, they basically, it doesn't give a detailed analysis here, but they basically just use these different factors: vitamin content, mineral content, nutrient ratios. That's what they said anyway.
Isn't it nice to know that we've been wrong the whole time?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
we have to change our podcast now.
I mean, we have to revise all our earlier podcasts on what we've been telling people and just say, buy a bag of M&Ms and just go to town.
Yeah. Think about going to McDonald's and ordering like a peanut M&M sandwich. Yeah. You're not serving that beef, are you? Because, damn.
Yeah.
Can you make steaks out of peanut M&Ms?
Well, let me tell you some of the additives that are in peanut M&Ms. So it's got, there's 4 different food colorings in there that are considered hazardous to your health. And as Steve starts eating that yummy M&M, let me pull that up real quick because it was, let's see, M&Ms. Bear with me here. Here we go. There we go. So on a scale of, this is an app called Yuka, and it kind of weighs sodium a little too heavy. And but outside of that, it rated M&Ms 0 out of 100.
Wow.
And so the additives that are in here, let me give you some of the, like tartrazine, which is a food coloring, and it causes hyperactivity, attention deficit disorder in children, and when it's combined with sodium. It's believed to cause hypersensitivity, intolerance reactions, cause neurotoxicity, and learning and memory deficits, and some cancers. And that's just one of them. There's 4 that are considered hazardous.
Right.
And like anything, if you're eating these all the time,
Yeah.
you know, it's no reason that, you know, we have an entire population dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So-
Well, then you
Yeah.
also have behavioral issues in children because of the dyes on these types of things. And this is an interesting looking M&M. I've never seen this color before. I thought it was very appropriate because we're talking about red meat. And I'm like, hey, that looks like a red peanut M&M.
Maybe they tried
There's
to.
only one in the bowl, too. And it was sitting right on top. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Absolutely. Well, it's got a little bit of brown coloring there. Maybe we're trying to make that look like red meat.
So if I eat this one and I start kind of, pulling a jerk to the right or something like this, you'll know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just carnivores. Is that how you say that?
I don't know. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so that has all kinds of, like, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negative marks of additives they
But
put
those
in
are the
here.
details that escaped the guys on that side of the study.
Apparently.
Right.
Well, like we talk about, it's all about who funds the study.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we have a Bill Gates study here,
Yep.
and, we all know Bill Gates wants us to eat less red meat.
He does have some opinions.
Well,
about
he's
red
he's
meat.
behind the bug protocol, right?
Yeah.
He wants us to
Bugs
eat
and
bugs.
M&Ms.
Bugs and M&Ms. I bet
A
he
well-balanced diet.
I bet bugs are 100 out of 100.
Candy coated.
Well, you know what's interesting here? I didn't notice this till right now, but cooked possum is on here at 57.
Man, I'm in luck. I just saw one of them in my backyard yesterday.
If you need to go scoop the roadkill out up off the road and
Can you
have that
imagine
for
like
dinner.
roaming the neighborhood with a BB gun looking
Yeah.
for the possums?
Fire up the grill, honey. I'll be home in 10.
Cooked squirrel at 56, coming in just behind potato chips.
Wow.
So that's interesting. I would
And
really
these are
like.
things that beat red meat? Are you telling you that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Red meat was 35.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Right.
29 actually.
Okay. All right.
I think we're good.
Hey, man.
Don't listen to Bill Gates.
Yeah, I'm like, what the? I don't know what to say about
One,
this. This is shocking.
it's surprising that they expect people to really believe this,
Yeah,
but they
It's-
do obviously.
I found that there are, in different camps of society, culture, et cetera, there are always camps of people who will believe things, right? I'm not saying they're stupid or dumb or anything, but you deliver information a certain way and it just resonates with somebody and they may kind of want to hear it.
Right.
Right?
It's
whatever
kind of
reason.
like permission almost.
Yeah.
Oh, this is giving me permission to
Right.
eat M&Ms
Yeah.
and potato chips.
Yeah.
And possum.
Yeah. If the expert at building the 486 back in 1982 says it's true, then it must be true.
That's right.
Or actually, no. I should say that he did have some researchers do it, but they didn't include the details.
So I noticed that no one has jumped in and eaten these. So I guess we all don't believe this
Yeah, I
study.
don't know. I mean, after what you just said were in them, I'm not sure I want to know.
What are we going to do with
I'll probably put them in a bag and then ceremonially drop them in the trash.
Put them in a slingshot.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We could like, build a target of some kind. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say what will be on the target. That's
be
for
careful.
you guys to decide.
That's be careful. Yeah.
So whatever's on that target, we can use these with a slingshot.
Well, I'll take the red meat.
I'll take the red M&Ms.
So I think we've, without going too far into that, we don't believe Bill Gates.
I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
with that one.
Absolutely. Always be skeptical of the studies you read. Think about who studies them. And also think about logic in the situation.
Yeah.
It's easy to read it and say, well, this is science, so it must be true. But let's apply some logic to the situation. Does
Right.
it really make sense for M&Ms with all this processing and additive ingredients to be healthy
Yes.
for you?
It really comes down to common sense almost.
Yeah.
Don't ignore your own experience and your own senses.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Well, Parker said something that always resonated with me. It's like there's what a study or a person says, and then there's what I've done in the gym and I've seen work. And that has to have some value.
Of course.
So, and that
Yeah.
includes your nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What are the results of the person that you have trained that only eats M&Ms all the time?
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine if someone came into the gym and there's like, hey, what are your advice for nutrition? And I said, eat a cup of M&Ms.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, outside of being abuse, I would probably say, I could prescribe that to someone to see what would happen to them.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy.
It is. Yeah, there is something to be said for empirical data. I mean, a good farm fresh egg in the morning, in my opinion, is better than cereal. And I mean, I'm no doctor, but I do have some empirical data, having kids and having been around for a while and eaten cereal and looked at the results and felt the results versus eating a farm fresh egg in the morning. I know where to go.
Eggs are the superfood.
Totally are.
Yeah, and cereal is garbage as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree
Amen
100%.
to that. Now that we agree on eggs.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. Well, I think now we should let you talk a little bit about just what you're all about, what you're doing, and kind of where you're wanting to go with it.
Yeah. So I have a company here in Kansas City called NeuroLogic. We've been in business for about 6 years now. We started on the notion that we could place a particular type of medical device in different practitioners' clinics, et cetera, and that was an EEG device. I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm a business guy. Largely, my career has been in the marketing and communications world. So how do you stumble into starting a business around EEG? Well, you get introduced to the product and you're so wowed by the technology that you're like, I got to be a part of this in some way, right? So, and if I have healthcare background in my career, it's certainly not in being a provider, but I have been involved in different organizations at a communications marketing level. So I have some background in that sense. But the EEG product is called Wavi, W-A-V-I, and the company, Wavi as well, is based out in Boulder, Colorado. So I was introduced to the product, and at the time I thought I would approach them to see if I could work with them on a marketing level. And as I got to know them and the product, I decided to take on a partner. And we started hitting the bricks, right? I mean, we started on the sales side and the distribution side. And I started to really learn a lot about how practices work and what practitioners need and, just what are the practicals around running those kinds of businesses and providing patient care and getting involved in more cutting-edge technology that's been proven. Largely, I work with devices that are FDA cleared, although that's not universally true, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. But Wavi is one that is an FDA cleared medical device, and so we use that to capture data inside the patient's brain, or as I like to call them, the client. And so the whole purpose of using Wavi is to grab what is called P300 data. And to explain that quickly, to summarize, your brain responds to stimuli, right? Sounds, sights, etc. And it does that by kicking out what's called an ERP, an evoked response potential. And so it's a measurable electrical, lack of a better way of saying it, impulse. It pushes out an electrical reaction. This goes all the way to the scalp, right? If I clap my hands here, your brain will have an organic response to that, and that's measurable. Mm-hmm. There's about 6 decades of research around the P300 that correlates it to either a healthy brain state or a not so healthy brain state. It will act as a biomarker that you can use to kind of measure. I always tell people it's a little bit like a scale in a weight loss program, right? It's not a diagnostic, as a scale is not a diagnostic, right? But if you stand on the scale and you discover you're 30 pounds over where you should be, well, the scale's not going to tell you why. That's up to you and your practitioner to figure out whether that's too many Funyuns or a thyroid condition or whatever the cause might be of that weight problem. So Wavi acts that way for the brain. It measures certain things, and then you compare it to normative data, and then you can decide on treatments and interventions from there. And then you just do this back and forth, and it's what we've developed is just a track and treat concept. Track the problem by measuring it, treat the problem, go back and track and measure again, and do that until the patient is healed or better or cured or however you want to say that.
So like a measurement and an intervention.
Yes. Measurement and intervention definitely fits within the name, so that's sort of a subtitle to our business.
So the P300, that 300 stands for?
300 milliseconds.
Which is the average?
That is the average speed of that wave. So when that comes from deep in the hypothalamus and it moves all the way to the scalp where it's measurable, that should take a third of a second, 300 milliseconds.
So is that like when I think I'm going to clap my hands, and to the point where I clap my hands, it's usually 300 milliseconds? Is that
Should
what
be.
you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you hear that sound, right, your brain's response to that sound will take 300 milliseconds, and that's measurable. And it should also have a certain amplitude, right? So the brain functions a bit like a battery, and so we can call it voltage or amplitude as we talk about it. And then that speed of the wave is referred to as a delay or a latency or just standard word speed.
Into the mic a little bit.
So sure.
Yeah.
So if somebody has a concussion, for instance, or if they have a cognitive decline issue or a mental or mood challenge that they're facing, that P300 will behave differently than a normal P300.
Right.
And then it's up to the practitioner to piece that together with presumably other tests that they may be running, putting all that data together, all those puzzle pieces together and saying, I've got objective data, I've got anecdotal, I've got this, I've got that, I've done a couple of other types of screenings. I might be looking at an early onset dementia situation here. I think that's probably what it is. And the data, can help to confirm that, although it is not a diagnostic in and of itself. So anyway, that's how that all came about.
And I don't want to misspeak here, but it can identify the possibility of a tumor. Is that going too far out there to say? Or?
It's not an imaging device.
Right.
It could certainly detect what may be abnormal brain physiology as a result of having a tumor, but it certainly would not, in and of itself, it wouldn't alert a practitioner necessarily to a tumor. It might lead the practitioner to go with some additional tests where they may discover that then. They may say, clearly something's off here, and then determine through another test that, yeah, you have a tumor.
So if someone had something like that, and it could be a head trauma or something like that, because I know that working with this in the past, you do a scan and you could, after you see the results, have you been had head trauma in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've had a car accident. I can see that.
Yes. Yeah, and you can see that primarily in how the amplitudes in the brain are measuring. So let's just say we have a 17-year-old healthy male and you would expect 18 to 23 microvolts, but you see that
I know what that means.
Well, they're very small, right?
Yeah.
It's a very small measurement of electricity, but that's the human brain. So, but instead that young man has 3.5 microvolts. Well, clearly something's wrong. And that actually harkens from a case that we actually worked on with a young guy who's a great hockey player, I'm told, but he was on his 5th concussion. That's a lot of concussions. And so the doc said, well, you're looking good on the outside, right? The manifestations of this injury have seemingly gone away, but based on the fact that it's your 5th one, I want you to go in and get a Wabi screening where we discovered it was 3.5 microvolts. And so he sat the rest of the season out because he was not in a place where it was safe to return to play at. And this is a problem that we face across the country where up to 35% of the time, concussion-injured athletes return to play too soon. For obvious reasons. People want to be on the field, they want to be playing, we want to win, we want to, whatever, championship, whatever. But part of the price that can be paid is that you stack injury on top of injury that isn't healed. And 12 years later, you're wondering why this young person with a great life is suffering from clinical depression, and it is necessarily linked back to those very proximate injuries that they had in their youth, but it was forgotten, right? It's over now. It's healed, so to speak. But we even have a way to see old injury versus new, fresh injury, right? So that the markers will appear different in our report. So anyway, just to give you a sense, what's different about this EEG product, and with regard to other types, is that it's exceptionally fast, it's exceptionally accurate, it's portable, it's comfortable. It's all the things that EEG of the past were not. It's even affordable. I mean, all of those barriers are gone, and so that's helpful for practitioners, even if they have not in the past offered a lot of brain health or neurological health services. They actually can now with this. All right, one does not have to be a neurologist in order to provide a scan to a patient and read and compare normative data with customized data for that person, and then determine what are we going to do. So that's how everything started. That's kind of probably a more long-winded than I had intended, but that led us down some different roads that we weren't expecting with practitioners who, probably because of their background in other types of medicine, would say, man, I really love this report. What do you have in the way of brain health treatments?
Intervention, yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you figured out there was a problem, and now they're asking for a solution.
Right. I'm like, I don't understand. What do you mean, Doc? So that happened enough to where I started having some flags up, and I'm like, the bigger opportunity here for many types of practitioners is to combine these things and to create a track and treat methodology. And the treatment side can be, pretty extensive. It can be quite a lot of different things that can help to heal the human brain for whatever it's suffering. And then to go back in that reproducible way, look at that data again and say, the amplitude is twice as good as it was last time. Let's keep going in this direction. So that got us into a few different, as I say, treatment options. And at this point, we're super open-minded about having many different types of treatments available. If it's something that we think we can understand and it has a fantastic reputation and it's, not necessarily cutting edge, but if it is cutting edge or if it is new and effective and fairly well researched, then we'll take a look at it and consider.
Well, for our audience, I want to go back to something you said earlier, where you said if someone has a 3.5 microvolts?
Microvolts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How does that manifest?
Well, so it manifests in the sense that the cap that we put on the head is receiving that electrical wave that the brain puts out. And it's literally capturing it in electrodes, and then it's feeding it into a software.
No, I meant like their behaviors. Is it something that are they moving slower? Are they not, the reaction time slower? So, those type of things.
Well, firstly, what it does not do is it doesn't dictate the level of intelligence that someone has, right? A lot of times people can get a little nervous about this being the first time they've ever done something like this. Low amplitude would probably manifest in feeling a lot of brain fog, having difficulty with cognition for long periods of time. If you have a high intensity work life and you have to be able to focus, but your amplitudes are very low, the stuff, you just can't get through it. It's kind of like walking in muck that's up to your waist, right? You know where to go, you know how to use your legs, you just can't, because you just don't have the appropriate amount of energy. But, and that's fixable with good sleep, supplementation, exercise, oxygen therapy, red light therapy, you name it. There's a lot of different ways to improve those types of circumstances.
That's interesting. You mentioned red light therapy, and that's something I know a little bit about. I don't know a lot about it.
Right.
It's something we have talked about as possibilities of putting in a gym environment for therapy for our members, and it seems to have a whole array of benefits.
Blows the mind what it's doing for people. I mean, we have a product now called Firefly, and it emits infrared, red, and blue light, right? Which each of those has a different effect on the body. We've done some initial research, not research, so to speak, but tests around the product in conjunction with Wavi. Again, right? Just tracking, what is this doing for the patient? And there's good research out there that shows that Parkinson's is very positively affected by these light therapies. And so when we ran Wavi scans, we could see a difference immediately after one session. And that actually led to a patient who had a long outstanding tremor in the left arm subside for 5.5 weeks after being treated, which told everybody that there was a way to maintenance the problem. It's not a cure, but it is a heck of a way to maintenance a problem like that. And so, not to go super deep, but that product, that photobiomodulation, really enhances what's called ATP in the body, and that immediately goes to support the neurological system within the body, and you can experience positive results almost immediately sometimes. So no guarantees that would be like that.
You know a lot about ATP.
Yeah? Okay, yeah. So you probably know more than I do, actually. I don't try to come off like I'm a medical professional or anything, but you have to learn some of the language and have these conversations with people who are better educated than I on the subject. But that's what it does. And in fact, for people who may be suffering from neuropathy, light therapy is a huge opportunity for them to maintenance that and to cause that to subside. Again, not to get into the actual disease state. If somebody's diabetic, red light therapy is not going to cure diabetes, but it is going to help them to push back the symptoms that they may be suffering. And again, that's something that can be measured in a couple different ways. So we've expanded this approach into yet another measurement system that's being used in different parts of the country, cardio-neuro system, that actually measures for neuropathy in, believe it or not, 8 minutes. It's a non-invasive test. It's FDA cleared. It's very simple. I've had it done to myself because I work with and try everything we work with I do on myself. And luckily I didn't have any neuropathy. But for those that do, it's a whole body scan, and it also finds cardiac neuropathy. So when you can get a patient appreciating their state by looking at an objective report that was produced 10 minutes from the time that the test started, you can get really good compliance because they want to get better. They want that to change, right? So they want to come back to their practitioner having done whatever that protocol is and get measured again. How am I doing now, right? So it's not to say that this isn't something that's done in practices. It's just we want to put a tremendous focus on the idea of track and treat. Get objective data, respond to the objective data, get objective data again. Pretty simple, right? For a guy who's not a medical guy, I'm like, you know what? I got an idea.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important when you do these devices, these measurement devices, that you just don't get a piece of paper. It's like, okay, well, I got a problem. What do I do? How do I solve this?
Right.
And
or just a pill.
Yeah. So
not to say that isn't sometimes needed. So I'm not at war with anybody out there. I'm just saying that there are comprehensive ways to get people to a whole new level of progress with whatever they're suffering with. And, case in point, again, coming back to concussion, concussion is, depending on the level of the injury, can be dealt with quite effectively with supplementation. Right? A lot of what the brain can suffer is nutrient deficiency. And it's often the last thing on people's mind. Why is this person behaving this way? Right? Why am I having this problem? And nobody's thinking that they are inherently lacking in certain vital vitamins and minerals that the brain has to have. The brain burns a lot of energy, burns a lot of calories. People underestimate it. It's somewhere in at least the area of around 20% of what you burn every day is burned by thinking, right? It takes a lot of energy to do that. And so as people age, these nutrients can start to go deficient. I sometimes liken it to, the old stories of the British Navy when they were low on ascorbic acid and didn't realize what was causing this thing called scurvy. Well, those were vitamin deficiencies, right? Bleeding of the gums, hairs falling out, guys are dying. Is this contagious? What is this?
Right.
It's a vitamin C deficiency. So they started putting citrus fruits on the boats, oranges, limes, lemons, that kind of thing, and the problem went away. And so this does apply to the brain as well as
Are
other
these
parts of the body.
nutrients that are like outside of your farm fresh dairy or fruits and vegetables?
No, not necessarily. These are nutrients that have been carefully crafted to have a proportional effect on the brain. So I kind of try to keep that easy too. It's just imagine if you took 1 grain of salt and 2 grains of pepper, and it has X effect on the body. Now you reverse that and do 1 grain of pepper and 2 grains of salt, and it has Y effect on the body. Mm-hmm. Now up that to 18 or 20 different ingredients that are all natural, that have been proportionally ratioed out in a daily regimen or a weekly or monthly regimen. And now they're having a unique effect on the brain's ability to absorb them and to put the brain back in action. And I have watched people's lives changed in less than 5 days. Less than 5 days. I'm not making that up.
Wow. So that'd be kind of like, I always, when I was younger, I didn't quite understand the idea when you're in the hospital that they put oxygen on your mouth, or when you're in the hospital.
Sure.
And it's like, we have oxygen all around us. Why do you need oxygen? Then I realized it's like high concentration, right? It's very, it's
great analogy.
Great analogy. So, it's real high concentration versus the oxygen that we typically breathe.
Right.
So it's like a higher dose in the areas that we're lacking. Would that be an accurate
Yeah, I think that's
analogy?
fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. They're certainly higher than what we see as RDAs or recommended daily allowance. This product was created by Dr. Lewis Clark, which is thankfully a very memorable name. It's hard to forget that one. But this is a man who is both a PhD and a clinical MD, so he's highly educated and took 4 decades of his career time to develop this product. Slowly over time, with a ton of research. It's used in different hospitals. It's used, on an at-home basis as well. And it has a really profound effect for people who have different challenges. Now, I will say that this product is called Nupanex, by the way. And in these types of compound nutraceuticals, don't tend to go into the FDA-approved category, right? So when talking about that particular product, I always have to be sort of, I guess you could say, careful. I'm not overly thrilled about that because if something works, I want to be able to tell people exactly how or exactly what somebody experienced. But suffice to say that people of all types with varying brain health challenges have seen great results. I've taken it off and on for a month or 2 at a time just to see, again, experimenting, what would this do for me? Thankfully, I don't have any major brain health problems, so there's probably some people out there who would disagree, but...
Take it.
Right. But sleep can be a challenge, right? And this is another area that a lot of people suffer from. And I noticed, without a doubt, that this product helped me to sleep way better. Again, this is something that's measurable when we come back to the Wabi topic, right? I can see a lack of sleep. If somebody comes to me for a screening and they have no history of injury, they have no other challenges, no other concerns, no other diagnoses, but their amplitudes are super low, my first question is, how are you sleeping? And they always say the same thing. Oh, horrible. I can't sleep. I haven't slept in years. I wake up 12 times a night. I have a hard time getting to sleep. Once I'm up forever. I can't go back to sleep, whatever. And so, you think about what sleep is to the brain. It's the recharge time, right? I kind of, again, keeping it simple. How many times have you plugged your cell phone in at night only to discover the next morning that you didn't quite push it in all the way and it didn't charge overnight because the connection wasn't there? Mm-hmm. Well, your body is feeding that energy to the brain, and it has to be asleep. Well, if you're getting lousy sleep, your brain can't derive that recharge in the same kind of way, just to keep it simple. And so what do you feel like when you're lacking sleep? You know what it's like. You trudge through the day, and you worry about, am I going to be able to sleep tonight? I haven't slept in 2 nights very well at all. Maybe tonight's the night to get some sleep. I can see that instantaneously with a Wabi scan, and then recommend something like this Nupanex product or other therapies that a practitioner wants to, try for their patient or their client or their customer or their member, whatever. I'm not overly fond of the word patient anymore, but I I tend to call them clients or customers. I think that's the way healthcare needs to go. I kind of divide the camps of healthcare and sick care. Both are needed, but healthcare is, the wellness, the prevention, all the things that you guys do for your clients and members. Keep yourself healthy, keep yourself mobile. That's healthcare.
Right.
But when you discover that you have a real need, something's truly wrong, now you're in a different area. And you can still call it healthcare, that's fine. But I call it sick care to make the point. That's not the time to suddenly decide to do something about your health, right? You need to stay on top of it. And so that's where some of these products come in and really help people to do that.
Well, how can people, say from a preventative perspective, use these products to stay on top of that? Because it's very clear, Wavi can tell you, hey, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Nupanex can treat that problem and help fix it. What should people do if they're in a state where, their brain health is pretty good, they don't feel like there's any problems, they're sleeping good? How can they still use these products?
Well, anybody can use, like, for instance, the Nupanex supplementation for a month or two as a regimen just to see what it may do for them. And then it's something that can be used on a maintenance level, right? It's not something that is intended for anybody to take forever. But somebody might need 3 to 6 months of it to rebuild those nutrients, and then maybe once a week to maintain. So, it just depends on where a person is. But especially when you're in that age bracket of, say, 40 to 60, health circumstances may decline naturally, and you really don't notice it. And so it's something to be aware of. It's like not that I have anything that's around this particular subject, but I often recommend people keep an eye on their pH balance, for instance. That can change without you noticing or feeling it. And having too acidic a pH can invite some problems. Cancer is not the least of those. And so, that's something that people should gauge their health the way they check their engine in their car. Make sure you're doing something once or twice a month to check on these different issues. And it's true also that our products are not necessarily, ubiquitous. They're not everywhere across the country. But we have people who will come to us and say, how can I do this, right? Well, honestly, most of our products are built to be purchased by practitioners who can then, of course, turn that into a revenue-generating piece of their healthcare business. Yet, sometimes people with disposable income will call and buy our products so they can have them in their home. So that's fine, too. They're just not super cheap. But a practitioner with a Wavi will want all their new patients to get a screening first as a baseline. And as patients or clients, members, just people in general, as they think about their health, they may want to go in once a year to a practitioner who offers Wavi and just get that baseline every year just to kind of keep track of where is my overall brain state, what's my brain physiology doing, and then what do I want to do about it if I find that the results are not optimal, and you get into the possibilities are, as I say, kind of endless. I mean, neurofeedback is another, right? I'm not directly commercially involved with neurofeedback, but I've measured patients who do neurofeedback, and it provides a great deal of positive outcomes for people who may have certain types of issues, and we've seen it firsthand, pre-post, sessions that they do, and then we measure it. It's very impressive. It's as impressive as red light therapy. It's as impressive as a few other things that we've seen. But and then also, we haven't talked too much about it yet, but we have an electromuscle stimulation product, which is again something that people can use probably more in like the physical training environment or a physical therapy environment. Though again, I do have some people who use it at home, and this is a whole body electromuscle stimulation suit. It's called Neuro 20. It looks like a surfer's wetsuit, right? It cuts off at the elbow.
Me and Parker both have experience in this.
Yeah.
Actually, have experience with a couple of your products.
Yes.
And I guess that's where I wanted, now that you brought that up, where I think it'd be good to kind of connect what we do for a living and how you could see some of these products being used and as a, because what's happening, I'm starting to see it, is that there's some gyms starting to bring in other revenue generation type of services outside of just being a gym.
Sure.
Right.
That are totally, associated with health.
More of a health and wellness type of focus.
Correct. Like, OT or red light therapy or stretch therapy. These are things that we're probably going to start seeing more of going under the umbrella of, and I don't know if it will be called a gym anymore, but it'll be kind of I think that's going to start happening. Because,
it is happening.
Because me and Parker both have been worked with our clients, and they're going outside and getting all these additional therapies.
Yes. Yeah, there's a definite merging of lifestyle approaches and preventative health care approaches with actual healthcare clinical environments, and that's a very interesting development. But for instance, a place like what you guys have is the Neuro20 would be a good fit, because if it's a physical training environment, then it's a full body suit, as I was saying, cuts off at the elbow and the knee, and it delivers electrical impulse to 42 muscle groups. But it is hitting core muscle, deep muscle. It's not hitting just top layer muscle. And it's also awakening the neurological system. I mean, we've seen changes in people that has been anything from depression symptoms to strength conditioning issues, injuries, misalignments due to muscle guarding from an old injury. You name it. I've seen with pretty much my own eyes, and I'll say this based on the fact that it was a video that I was watching. I wasn't in the room, but I saw this patient with my own eyes who had not been able to walk in 10 years. And after a couple of sessions with the Neuro20, was able to walk with a cane and a wall bar. He was not able to do that before. So it is reawakening the neurological system in the human body. It is producing a multi-neuronal excitation in the brain, which is causing the brain and body to find or refine the connection that might have been lost due to an injury or whatever the cause might have been. And it's changing people's lives. I can't even tell you. I mean, it's such an exciting product. I have an older gentleman who has used it twice a week for probably the last year. And his initial interest was he was going back to a high school reunion, and he'd been suffering from neuropathy and muscle atrophy in one of his legs, and probably both to some extent. But, he was limping. He was having difficulty climbing stairs. He had to literally hold on to the rail, one step at a time, 2 feet, then the next one. Now he's walking upstairs like you and me. And that was a short period of time, a couple of months.
I see this as a viable tool.
Totally is.
I have a client that I've been training for a year and a half, same issue, going up steps is a problem, right?
Yep.
I remember when I did kind of an observation of him the first day, I wanted to see what his limitations were.
Yes.
I had set up a step not too high, and I said, okay, and I gave him a pole to put on the ground, and please step up on this step. Couldn't do it.
Right.
Could not do it. Now, after a year and a half of training, he can now go up steps without holding onto the railing.
Right.
So that feels fantastic as a trainer, but it's also fantastic for him. Now, if you have this tool, you're just expediting that process.
Yes. No, I've seen it. I've seen that too. So I've worked with physical trainers who have had this very same client that I was talking about. Keep the suit off, right? Suit's on, but we don't have it turned on, and he's doing this, right? Toe raiser, heel raiser. I don't really call it toe raiser because it's the heel that goes up. But any case, he couldn't do a toe raiser. He didn't have the strength to push his heels up off the ground. So then we turned the suit on. Now he's getting a signal that runs all the way down into his feet, all right? Despite the fact that the suit cuts off at the knee, it still sends the signal all the way down. He could get a half a toe raiser in. This is 3-minute difference in time. Okay, the reaction of the physical trainer, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming, because it's causing a synergistic alignment of muscle groups on both sides of the body to function together in a synchronized way that he doesn't have control of, right? But he will, right? Because now you're forcing the issue with the signal, and then shortly thereafter, they're able to maintain that new mobility.
I'm assuming that's retraining the brain.
It is retraining the brain, and it's retraining the muscle. Yeah. So we've seen guys with like multiple systems atrophy, which is kind of a Parkinson's sort of version. So, fluidity of movement and the gait when walking is a little bit like 3PO, for instance, 3CPO.
Mm-hmm.
So very noticeable, not fluid,
Yeah.
et cetera. And then one session, next day, second session, suit is on, walking, normal gait, normal fluidity. Now the question is, can he hold that when the suit's turned off? Answer, yes, he was able to do that. So it's a huge development in physical training and physical therapy.
How long did that take? How much treatment does it take to where he can do it without the suit?
He did 2 sessions of no more than 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And you would not use this particular product more than twice a week for about 20 minutes. Now, it has other settings you can use. But for like strength conditioning, the signal can be used for about 20 minutes. Now, if you're really getting used to it, you've been doing this for months and you're strengthened up, et cetera, you may get away with a 3rd session in a week. But yeah, so that's how that works.
I can remember when you brought these suits in for us to try.
Yeah.
I was sore in places that I don't know if I'd ever been sore before and will ever be sore again.
Yeah.
It's true. But, at the same time, it's a different kind of soreness, if you remember. Mm-hmm. It's not like typical soreness from a typical workout, right? I mean, would you agree?
It was deeper.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So imagine that the signal is on for, say, 30 seconds, and then it's 15 seconds off. And during that rest period, you're getting this electrical tapping that pulses, right? Boom, boom, boom. That is causing that synovial fluid to be flushed out, right? So what's the word I'm looking for? The pain that you get in the muscles after working out. What's I can't remember what.
Delayed onset muscle soreness?
Yeah.
No, just the cause of it. What's it's the release of whatever.
Lactic acid?
Lactic acid is what I'm looking for. So the lactic acid is flushed out of the muscles because of that tapping. So you won't get that same soreness, but you're also working deep muscle that we hardly ever work out, right? These are muscles that are deep and we don't use them very often. Now you're using them. And so that's a different, it's kind of a weird soreness, but it's not pain. It's not super painful either. And that lasts a day or 2, maybe 3. But you're soon over that. By week 2, you're feeling good. And, I have used it for long periods of time, twice a week, pretty religiously, 6-8 months at a time. And I've just noticed, I'm not trying to become an Olympic athlete or anything, but I had noticed an increase in strength just in everyday activity. And that might have been climbing stairs, right? Or scooping my 11-year-old son up off a couch because he fell asleep on Friday night watching a movie, right? About 11 years old, he's starting to get a little lanky, I'm 52 years old. I'm not exactly looking for lower back problems, but it didn't even occur to me. I just went and just brought him upstairs and put him in bed. I'm like, I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have big problems, you're going to definitely notice greater strength, greater mobility. And that's, again, that's the name of the game, like I said earlier, is maintaining health, maintaining strength, mobility is such a key to just maintaining health the older we get. Right, so you can use this. I'm using this with people who are almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
And they love it.
Well, it's also being used at high level of sports athletes on like the highest level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been used for recovery after injury, after surgery. At the athletic level, they are definitely seeing positive changes in outcomes. Say, I won't use names or anything, but some people who are super fast runners, let's put it that way, and may have some records, right? But are dropping or cutting seconds off of their records after using this product. A young lady I heard the story about, soccer player, tore the ACL. And if you know anything about ACL, the surgery, healing, and recovery time is pretty long. Hers was cut in half. And during that time of use, added at least a full inch of muscle in the thigh region of the leg. That's not something anybody ever sees during a recovery time after an ACL surgery. But, so what you're looking at is after they did some studies, 2 20-minute sessions per week in a workout mode is equivalent to 5 one-hour workouts. That's pretty impressive, especially for somebody who may be a little crunched for time, but wants the results. it's pretty well worth doing that. Now, when you get back to how do you use this in conjunction with other things, which is the name of my game, Wavi can certainly be used to track brain physiology changes when you're using Neuro20, because there are some. You can use it in conjunction with red light therapy, for instance. So imagine if it's a neuropathy issue. Red light therapy is fantastic for neuropathy, but so is electromuscle stimulation. Putting those two together is changing lives, and that's really the name of the game for us.
So, curious. Testosterone's a big thing in what we do.
Yeah.
Is there any measurement device that you use that testosterone would, or you might not know it's testosterone, but having low testosterone would be measured in a secondary effect with
I don't know that I do, honestly, Matt. I was thinking as to whether Nupinex had any potential correlation with that, but I just don't know. I don't know the answer. Nupinex is made by Clark Bioscience, and they do have other products. And here's a crazy one talking about testosterone. So there's a bit of an underestimation as to how much estrogen men need. And they can actually have deficiencies of estrogen, not something that we would normally think about. But Dr. Lewis Clark, again, go out and do the research or look him up, and they've got a great YouTube channel and all that. But that is a subject that he addresses because there can be certain symptoms that men can have. I mean, obviously, men have higher testosterone, low estrogen, and women the other way around. But that estrogen level is still important in men's health. Not to switch the subject, so that is the type of thing that Clark Bioscience is into. So that could be worth looking into on a research basis. But yeah, off the top of my head, probably not at the moment.
But I was thinking more in the measurement aspect. There's nothing that would be indicative of low testosterone.
Low testosterone and its effect on brain physiology, for instance.
Yeah.
It's not a subject that I've dealt a lot with.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, yeah. But I can always ask. That's the great thing about working with Wavi is I
have access to all these doctors.
Oh yeah, all the nerds, all the brainiacs.
Yeah.
I'm the guy out there, pounding the pavement. How did it go, guys? Can you answer this question for me?
Wasn't there I think it was a friend of ours, Grant, who did a test on you as far as what kind of salesman you would be?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, it's so strange. That's one of those that's the high-level personality accuracy stuff. You know what the irony of all that is I don't really personally like sales.
Right.
And I don't consider myself to be a salesman, but I have an unusual, what's the right word, result.
Right.
And
what was
he
the word?
He likened it to being an assassin.
Yeah.
So don't tell anybody else that. I guess we just did. But
I've heard it. I think we've both heard it, but I think our listeners should hear it. Tell us about the tooth story with the NeuroSuit.
Oh my gosh,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't. This other stuff, it kind of makes sense. I can believe, but this is crazy.
Okay, so as I said, kind of waking up that brain and body connection with Neuro20 is something that was happening to me personally as I was using it twice a week. I've taken a little bit of break lately, but we'll be getting back into it more. But after a few weeks of consistent use, I started noticing something going on with my left jaw toward the back. Now, years ago, I had my wisdom teeth taken out, like a lot of people do, and had the procedure, went home, moved on with my life. But over the years, I just always noticed that I had kind of a strange problem with the back, with the bottom left. Everything else was great, tops perfectly fine. And I just never knew what it was. It would come and go, and I'm not the type to rush off to the doc too much. So I didn't really think to do anything about it. But this went on for a long time. And so I'm using Neuro20, and all of a sudden I'm getting this weird, hard calcified lump off to the side of my jaw and the inside of my mouth. I'm like, I thought, did I eat something and something got jammed into the skin inside my mouth? What is this? I've never experienced anything like this. It wouldn't move. It wouldn't budge. I'm like, this is crazy. And then another, right? And then a couple weeks goes by and finally, pop. And I'm like, that's a piece of tooth.
Wow.
Okay, it happened 5 times, right? So whoever, I don't even remember who this was, but whoever did the job with the wisdom teeth left a piece of broken tooth or several pieces, and I guess he had a thing that day and had to rush off. I don't know. But I'm like, I call the medical director. I'm like, I know this is going to sound really weird. I've never had anything like this happen to me before, but is this, and the only thing I'm doing different is the suit. So he's like, no, it's totally the suit. The suit is causing the brain and the body to talk. For whatever reason, the body just wasn't recognizing the foreign object. And we've all had things like that, or many of us have, where you might get something lodged into your finger like a big splinter or something. Mm-hmm. Well, that takes a little time to work itself out, right? That's what should have happened here probably, but it didn't. So re-engaging with the suit caused my body to say, hey, what's this? Get it out. 5 chunks of wisdom tooth comes out the side of my gum.
And just
on the inside
like
of my
it
mouth.
extracted itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So think of that as like the healing mechanism, right? This is causing the body to better heal itself, right? And
I wonder if that would work for like all kinds of toxins that might be in your body where it would secrete that.
Yeah, I think that it would. Yeah. No, don't quote me, but I can get more information back to you. But,
I don't want to say anything that's not true.
Well, I want to try and keep it on the up and up, obviously. But I'm always super impressed with the stuff that we work with, and I mean, just the level of results is so mind-boggling sometimes. When you hear about people who have had severe pain, right? For instance, I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't know if it was an MS patient, but severe pain, and if not a tremor, some kind of quiver in the muscle for 3 years straight without it ever stopping. Can you imagine having to deal with that? And it stopped after using Neuro20. Pain went away.
How many sessions?
One session. And so now I'm saying...
But did he have to go back?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So several days, 5, 6, 7 days later, starts to come back. We don't expect the root cause to be healed,
right?
But we expect to be able to manage and maintenance the symptoms much better than before. And that, what a difference in the quality of life. I mean, imagine day and night, this pain, it never subsides. Gone for a week. That's a heck of a vacation.
That's the thing about, when you get into not, some of the, I'm going to call medicines that are out there. You'd mentioned Nupinex.
Yeah.
Well, how much of a relief is it that I can take it for a short period of time? I don't have to be on it all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I can maintenance it by getting a good dose.
Yes.
And then maintenance it like once a week, once a month, whatever.
Yep.
And then, but what's the majority of a pharmacy like now? Every single day. Once you're on, you're on.
Oftentimes.
It's fixing the problem versus treating the problem.
Yes.
And that's traditional medicine is let's just do enough to mask the problem and then keep them on it forever.
Right.
And this is actually, hey, let's fix the problem. Let's improve the results so that you don't need this anymore.
So that sounds like a mindset shift, right? Because we're all conditioned to treat the problem, not heal the problem.
Right.
And so I'm assuming you have had some challenges with the mindset of, getting people past that to understand these different, this measurement and intervention approach. Has it been, people have been kind of like...
Yeah, I mean, there certainly have been some that push back or that ultimately feel that they're not interested in integrating what we have. Is it possible that certain new technologies can be a threat? And it doesn't even have to be in medicine. It doesn't have to be healthcare. Can new technologies become a bit of a threat to the old way of doing things? Absolutely, it can. So there's probably a little bit of that out there, but we find that the practitioners we end up working with gravitate to us, through different means of putting ourselves out there, right, promotionally speaking. They come to us. They come ready to learn, interested in what's going on. I don't tend to try to push things too hard. in the sales direction. If I can see, all right, this isn't going to go anywhere, this individual doesn't want to incorporate this, fine, we just move on. But I think that what's crazy is I've talked to practitioners and said those very words, track and treat. Track and treat. I like that. That sounds good. I'm like, isn't that what you've been doing for the last 40 years? Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was that new of an idea. I figured this is what was going on. And I work with people that range from athletic trainers all the way up to neurologists and everything in the middle, right? PCPs, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, physical therapists, et cetera. So there's a range. And, they can all make use of these tools. You don't have to have a super high level level of credentialing, which is fine if you do, great. Obviously, that's needed. But I'm just saying that if somebody wants to look at the performance of their athletes as an athletic trainer, now they have the tools to do it, and they can introduce that as a revenue line for their business. That's not often the piece that, the patient suffering is thinking about. But if you're going to run a healthcare business or even the type that you guys are expanding, that's a reality, right? You can't just bring things in that are all costs. There has to be some kind of a way to have an ROI on these things. And that's why we got into this, because they are actually, as I say, household use priced, would be considered high. The price would be high. But for practices, not really. They're pretty affordable, and they generate. And almost all of what we work with is also billable with insurance. We have clients that do, insurance reimbursement, or they do cash pay, or they're a hybrid. They do both. And so, our goal is just to make sure that people gain access to this. So, I suppose key to that is if somebody does not yet have this in their area, let me know. I'm literally working on a case where the patient has had the ability to use Neuro20, had a prescription to do it, because that's the typical process for the use, is getting a simple script from a doc. But then having follow-up with the doc, wanting to get physical therapy involved for their opinion, right? And so now I've got a practitioner and a PT group communicating with each other through the patient, and the hope there is that will develop into something a little bit bigger, because that's what you want. You want them to be aware that these tools are out there. They're fantastic to use in the environment that you guys are used to, but they can be used all the way up to medical grade use. So I don't know if I answered your question, but sometimes pushback.
I think
not
Parker had
generally.
a question.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So for the listeners, say if they're interested in any or all of these products, what is the steps that they can take to obtain access to them?
If somebody wants to reach out directly, we're always happy to kind of talk them through that. NeuroLogic.life, L-I-F-E, is our web, NeuroLogic.life, and then there you have a phone number that can be called, and email, et cetera. So just go out to the site, take a look at what we've got going on, and we're expanding. We're looking to add new equipment that we feel fits the brain and neurological health, because that is our overall focus, right? We're not looking to just bring anything medical in. We want to focus on brain and neurological health. So that would be the easiest way for people to learn more. And then, we can help them to communicate with a practitioner if they need it. Or if somebody is a practitioner and just wants to see what the opportunity may look like, great. Happy to take the call and talk them through that. So that's how that would work best.
Wow. Well, the other aspect I want to ask you about is when you are working. We've done the WAVI brain health scans,
Right.
right? And I remember that when I was looking at mine, I was like, "You said, well, it looks good, right?" And so my first response was,
I was lying to him, but whatever. Okay.
"You look good for 57."
Oh, this is great. I gotta go.
We need some intervention quick. So I guess one of the things that I would want to know is, if someone's wanting that done, right, they can send it to a doctor that can, you have an MD on staff that can
Right.
give them read the scan, right? Because
Yeah.
I can look at it and I'm like,
Right.
You
Yeah,
know.
that's right. So we have a couple different ways to do that, especially for practitioners. We have MD to kind of guide them through the reading of the report. It's something that they will eventually get used to, and then if we have to, also if there's a call for it, we can also forward that all out to a neurologist who may need to read the raw wave data, to rule out something like epilepsy or something of that nature. But yeah, we have those solutions to make sure that people know what's going on. But honestly, from the front end of the report, once you have an understanding as to what these combinations of results kind of tie back to, again, whether it's injury, cognitive, mental, mood, etc., they're going to have some pretty standard combinations of results. And as I say, like for a new concussion, you're going to expect amplitudes to be low. An old concussion that somebody's not healing from, low amplitudes and a flat peak alpha frequency, which I won't get into the depths of all of it, but peak alpha frequency is important in a couple different types of reads, right? It's a spike in that band of brain waves. And so you would see it flatten out in a couple different cases. A young person with a concussion that they haven't healed from after, say, 3 years, it's still a persistent concussive state. Or someone in much later years who may be going into like a dementia state. You would be looking for a flat peak alpha, right, in those types of instances. So, yeah, these different combinations mean different things, and we do train the docs to understand that. Yeah, so.
Well, Steve, anything else that you want to talk to our audience about?
Just grateful to have the opportunity to share the information. As I say, I just think I think healthcare is heading in a new, exciting, positive direction. I think a lot of people have had experiences that they may have been disappointed with. I'm not picking big fights with any part of the healthcare system as much as I am saying that patients are human beings. We want to treat them as clients, as customers. I'm really for the ability to buy healthcare like we buy bread. I have no problem, obviously, with insurance and things like that. Those are all great. But I want people to be able to have access to things that work, that are measurable, that are easily proven. And I think that's kind of what we're about.
And that was just what I was about to say, is that what I'm excited about is the fact that this brings these interventions or measurement and interventions closer to the public. So it's not these huge price tags to get over to get them done.
Right. Yeah.
Which is where medicine should be headed anyway.
I agree. And and there's some things honestly that we're working on right now that I'm not at a place where we can really talk a lot about them yet, but maybe we come back to the table again and
I think we can do a whole next time we can do a whole show on this is it Firefly?
Firefly.
I mean, that sounds fascinating to me,
It's
but
unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, before you go, you have to do your opening real quick. So see if everyone recognizes it.
Let me see. Welcome to another edition of Loading the Bar.
There you go.
You should recognize that voice.
Yeah, Steve is a man of many talents. So he writes, he's got VO, he's a good salesman, and he knows how to run a business. So.
Well, some days.
Yeah.
Yep, and luckily he was a part of this podcast, but he gets to be a part of every podcast
All
because
the
he's
time.
done the
That's
intro
right.
and the outro.
That's
right.
Even
Very
if he's
thankful.
not here, he's here.
That's right.
He's with us.
Well, thanks.
That's
for
a
having
good
me.
one. I like that. Even if he's not here, he is here.
He's here in spirit.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I know that I learned quite a bit from
Good,
you talking
yeah.
there. I've had experience with the products you talked about, have done the Wavi and used the Neuro 20 suit, but
Right.
I always enjoy learning more about what it is and how they can help people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a new technology. So, I mean, it's one of those things I'm thinking, man, I got 20 more questions in my head, but we do need to end the podcast. So,
Right.
Yep, we'll have to pick back up another time and continue it on.
Yeah.
So,
Glad to do
Steve, I
it.
want to thank you so much for joining us.
Yep.
Matt, you got anything to say before we hop off here?
nope. See you next week, guys.
All right, yep, we'll be back next week with some more great content for you. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Bye.
Hey, look at you. You've completed another milestone by finishing this episode of Loading the Bar. Your future self thanks you profusely. Loading the Bar is podcasted from Lee Summit, Missouri. Email us at cpt.kansascity@gmail.com. Forge ahead and share your progress. And we'll see you back here for another episode of Loading the Bar.